The transport ship descended through the clouds of New Terra, and Ambassador watched the human colony grow larger through the viewport. Her silver skin reflected the cabin lights as she tried to calm her thoughts. In 3 days, she would marry a human. The idea disgusted her. The Empire had fought border wars with humanity for 30 years. Small battles, raids on mining stations, disputes over worthless rocks floating in space. Then both sides grew tired. The diplomats talked for months and finally agreed on peace, but peace needed a symbol, something to show both civilizations were serious. A marriage, a union between their species. Had volunteered not because she wanted to, but because someone from her family had to. The Council of Elders demanded it. Her father was a high general. Her mother served on the governing board. They could not refuse when the Empire called. So here she was, traveling to marry a human she had never met. The transport landed at the capital spaceport, stepped out into the warm air of New Terra. The gravity felt slightly heavier than her. Humans evolved on a death world, she reminded herself. High gravity, dangerous weather, predators everywhere. It made them strong but also crude. A delegation waited for her on the landing pad. Humans in formal uniforms stood in neat rows. At the front stood an older human with gray hair and many medals on his chest. Ambassador, the human said, bowing slightly. I am Admiral Gregory. Welcome to New Terra. Returned the bow, keeping her face neutral. Thank you, Admiral. The journey was acceptable. Your future husband is here as well. The Admiral gestured to a man standing slightly behind him. Looked at the human who would become her husband. He was tall, even for a human, with dark hair and calm eyes. He wore a simple uniform with few decorations. His posture was relaxed, almost casual. He did not look like a warrior. He looked like a clerk. Captain Blake, the Admiral said. He commands the defense station above New Terra. Blake stepped forward and bowed deeper than the Admiral had. Ambassador, I am honored to meet you. His voice was quiet and steady, studied him carefully. She had expected someone brutal, aggressive, loud. Humans were supposed to be violent. This one seemed almost gentle. Captain, she replied, I hope this arrangement will serve both our peoples well. That is my hope as well, Blake said. The Admiral led them to a transport vehicle. As they traveled through the city, looked out at the human buildings. They were functional, not beautiful. Humans cared more about what worked than what looked good, another sign of their primitive nature. They arrived at the embassy compound where would stay until the wedding. Her staff had arrived earlier and prepared her quarters. As she entered, Ambassador was waiting for her. Was old even by standards. He had served the Empire for 2 centuries. His silver skin had faded to almost white, and he moved slowly. Ambassador said, You have met the human. Yes, Captain, he seems harmless. Made a clicking sound that meant disagreement. Do not mistake quiet for harmless. I have observed humans for many years. They are always dangerous, even the peaceful ones. He commands a defense station, probably gave out schedules and checked supplies. Sat down in the style chair her staff had brought. I saw his uniform, very few decorations. He must be inexperienced. Perhaps, said, but Admiral chose him for this marriage. The humans would not send someone unimportant. Or maybe they do not care as much as we think, replied. Maybe this marriage means little to them. The next 3 days passed quickly, met with human diplomats, attended formal dinners, and spoke at ceremonies. Blake was always present but rarely spoke. He answered questions politely but never volunteered information. He seemed content to let others talk. On the second day, asked him about his work. What does a defense station commander do, Captain? We monitor shipping lanes, Blake said. Make sure trade routes stay safe, respond to distress calls, basic security work. It sounds boring. Blake smiled slightly. Most days that is good. Boring means peaceful. Noticed he never talked about combat. Most warriors love to share their battle stories. Blake avoided the subject entirely. The wedding day arrived. The ceremony took place in a large hall decorated with both human and symbols. Representatives from both governments attended. Reporters recorded everything for broadcast across both civilizations. Wore traditional robes that shifted colors in the light. Blake wore a formal human uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. They stood before both a human official and an elder. The ceremony blended customs from both cultures. They spoke vows in both languages. They exchanged symbolic gifts. Blake gave a small crystal from Earth, gave Blake a metal band forged on her. When the official declared them married, cameras flashed. The crowd applauded. looked at Blake and saw nothing in his expression. No joy, no regret, just calm acceptance. The reception lasted hours. Humans and mingled carefully like two groups of strangers forced to share a room. Noticed Blake stayed close to her but did not demand her attention. When she spoke with guests, he stepped back. When she needed something, he appeared. Late in the reception, Admiral approached them. "Captain, a moment, please." Blake excused himself and walked with the Admiral to a quiet corner, watched them talk. The Admiral's expression was serious. Blake nodded several times, his face unchanged. When Blake returned, saw something different in his eyes. Just for a moment, something sharp and cold. Then it was gone, replaced by the same calm she had seen before. "Is something wrong?" asked. "A situation has developed," Blake said carefully. "The Horde has attacked mining stations in the border region between our territories." Felt her blood chill. There were raiders and murderers. Every civilization feared them. "Both our governments are calling for a joint military response," Blake continued. "I have been ordered to take command of the human fleet in this sector." You could not hide her surprise, "But you command a defense station." "I did," Blake said. "Now I command the Third Fleet. I leave tomorrow." "Tomorrow, but we just married." "I know, I am sorry." Blake looked genuinely regretful. "You can remain here if you wish. You will be safe." Felt anger rise in her chest. This was how humans honored marriage, by leaving immediately. "No," she said firmly. "I will come with you. I want to see how humans fight. I want to observe your military capabilities." Blake studied her for a moment. "It may be dangerous." I do not fear danger." "Then you are welcome aboard my ship," Blake said. "We depart at dawn." That night lay in her new quarters, unable to sleep. She had married a human. Tomorrow she would board a human warship. She would watch humans fight the Horde. Part of her wondered what she would see. Would they be brave? Would they be cowardly? Would they fight with honor or like animals? But another part of her, a small voice in the back of her mind, remembered Blake's eyes, that brief flash of something cold and sharp. Maybe Ambassador was right. Maybe quiet did not mean harmless. She would find out soon enough. The human warship Valiant hung in space like a gray knife, stood in the shuttle as it approached, studying the vessel through the viewport. It was not beautiful. Humans built their ships for war, not appearance. Heavy armor, weapon banks, shield generators, everything served a purpose. The shuttle docked and followed Blake through the airlock. The moment they entered the ship, everything changed. Blake's posture shifted, his casual manner disappeared. He walked differently, his steps precise and deliberate. Officers snapped to attention as he passed. "Captain on deck," someone announced. "At ease," Blake said, his voice carrying authority had not heard before. "All stations, report status." They walked onto the bridge. It was smaller than expected, filled with screens and controls. Human crew members sat at their stations, working quickly and quietly. A woman with short red hair stood from the command chair. "Captain, the ship is ready. All systems operational. The crew is prepared." "Thank you, Commander Phillips." Blake moved to the command chair but did not sit. Instead, he studied the main display showing the fleet positions. "How many ships do we have?" 15 human vessels, Phillips said. "The fleet has 20 ships under Admiral. They arrived an hour ago." Watched Blake examine the tactical display. His eyes moved across the screen, taking in every detail. He was not just looking. He was analyzing, calculating, planning. "Open a channel to Admiral," Blake said. The screen shifted to show Admiral. Was a warrior of high rank, his silver skin marked with battle scars. He looked at Blake with barely hidden contempt. "Captain," said, making the rank sound like an insult, "my fleet is ready to engage the raiders. We will handle this situation. Your vessels can provide support if needed." Blake's expression did not change. "Admiral, I suggest we coordinate our approach. They operate in specific patterns. If we move carelessly, we may encounter problems." "Problems?" laughed Captain. "They are raiders, not soldiers. They attack weak targets and flee from strength. We will drive them away easily." "Perhaps," Blake said quietly, "but I recommend caution. Tactics often involve hidden reinforcements. What appears as a small raiding party may be bait for a larger force." His eyes narrowed. "Are you suggesting I do not understand tactics?" "Not at all, Admiral. I am merely sharing observations from previous encounters." "Previous encounters? You commanded a defense station. What encounters could you possibly have had?" Blake paused for just a moment. "Enough to recognize patterns, Admiral. I respectfully suggest we hold back a reserve force in case additional enemies appear. Your suggestion is noted and dismissed, Captain. Image shifted to show confidence and pride. My fleet will advance immediately. Your ships may follow when you feel brave enough. The channel closed, saw several human officers exchange glances. Commander Phillips looked at Blake with concern. Sir, should we try to convince him to wait? No, Blake said. Admiral has made his decision. We will proceed according to plan. What plan? Asked. All eyes turned to her. She realized she had spoken without thinking. Blake looked at her without anger. The plan for when allies ignore advice and walk into traps. Commander Phillips, implement formation Delta 5. All weapons on standby, shields at maximum. Intel engineering, I want emergency power ready on my command. Yes, sir. Phillips moved to her station and began giving orders. The fleet moved forward, the ships accelerated ahead, their sleek vessels leaving the human fleet behind. Watched them go, feeling pride in her people's superior technology. But then she noticed something. The human ships were not trying to keep up. They maintained a steady pace, holding formation perfectly, every vessel in exactly the right position. Captain, the officer at the sensor station called out, detecting ships ahead. Count is 12 vessels, Raiders class, medium tonnage. 12, Blake repeated. He stared at the display. Phillips, does that match standard raiding party composition? No, sir, standard is 8 to 10 ships. 12 is unusual. Exactly, Blake leaned forward slightly. They brought extra ships, the question is why. On the screen, the fleet engaged the raiders. Bright flashes marked weapons fire. The ships moved with grace and speed, their advanced weapons tearing into the vessels. Felt satisfaction watching her people fight. They were superior warriors. Within minutes, 4 ships were destroyed. The others began retreating. They are running, said the fierce strength. Blake said nothing. He watched the screen with intense focus. Admiral's voice came over the communication channel, broadcasting to all ships. The enemy flees. All vessels pursue and eliminate them. Today we show these raiders the price of attacking civilized space. The ships chased the retreating toward a large moon. Captain, the sensor officer said, his voice tight, detecting massive energy signatures emerging from behind the moon. I count 40, 60, 80 warships. They were hiding in the moon's shadow. The bridge went silent. Felt her heart skip. 80 ships. The retreating had been bait. The real force had waited for the to commit. On the screen, the reinforcements surrounded the fleet. Ships were trapped, taking fire from all directions. Admiral is requesting assistance, Phillips said. Blake stood from the command chair. His voice was calm, but heard steel beneath it. All human ships, this is, execute pattern Omega-7, mark positions and await my signal. Engineering, give me full power to engines and weapons. Pattern Omega-7 confirmed, Phillips said. Around the bridge, officers worked with practiced efficiency. No one panicked, no one questioned, they simply acted. Watched in confusion. What is pattern Omega-7? Blake glanced at her. A rescue formation. We practiced it during the war. All captains in the human fleet know it by heart. The war? What war? But Blake was already focused on the tactical display. The human ships accelerated, moving into a precise V formation. They cut through space toward the trapped vessels. Range in 30 seconds, Phillips called out. Weapons locked on multiple targets, another officer reported. All ships have confirmed ready status, a third officer added. Blake watched the countdown, saw his jaw tighten slightly. Then, at exactly the right moment, he spoke. All ships fire. The human fleet opened up together. Their weapons lacked the elegance of technology, but they hit hard. Coordinated fire from 15 ships struck the formation from an unexpected angle. Several vessels exploded. Others turned to face this new threat, breaking their encirclement of the executing pattern shift, Blake said. Alpha formation, create corridor on bearing 270. The human ships split into 2 groups, punching through the formation. They created a gap, a corridor of space protected by their weapons. Signal Admiral, Blake ordered. Tell him to withdraw his ships through the corridor. We will cover his retreat. The message was sent. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ships began moving, pulling back through the corridor the humans had created. Human vessels fired constantly, keeping them at bay. A battle cruiser broke through the line, targeting one of the damaged ships. Blake saw it immediately. Valiant intercept course, full forward shields. The Valiant surged forward, placing itself between thee and the wounded vessel. Enemy fire slammed into the Valiant's shields. Shields at 60%, an officer called out. Return fire all forward batteries, Blake commanded. The Valiant's weapons hammered the ship. The enemy vessel's shields collapsed, and it turned away, damaged. All vessels are clear, Phillips reported. Pull back, Blake ordered. All human ships withdraw to rally point Theta. Maintain covering fire. The human fleet pulled back in perfect order. Each ship knew its role, protecting the others as they retreated. They did not pursue. They had taken heavy losses and seemed content to let the humans leave. When they reached safe distance, Blake finally sat down in the command chair. He let out a slow breath. Stared at him. This was not the quiet captain she had married. This was someone else entirely. Someone who gave orders that saved lives. Someone who saw danger before it arrived. Someone who commanded respect through competence, not volume. How did you know? She asked quietly. How did you know they had more ships waiting? Blake looked at her. Because it is what I would do. If I wanted to trap an overconfident enemy, I would show them easy prey, make them commit, then spring the real force. You think like them. I think like a soldier, Blake corrected. Sometimes that means thinking like the enemy. A communication came through. Admiral appeared on screen. His expression was different now. The contempt was gone. Captain said formally, the fleet owes you a debt. Your warning was correct. Your rescue was timely. I should have listened. No debt is owed, Admiral, Blake replied. We are allies now. Allies help each other. After the channel closed, moved closer to Blake. Your uniform has very few decorations, Captain, but you fight like someone with much experience. Blake smiled slightly. I have been in a few battles, Ambassador. A few, Commander Phillips laughed from her station. Captain, that is like saying the ocean has a few drops of water. Blake shot her a look, but Phillips just grinned. Studied her husband with new eyes. There was more to learn about Blake, much more. Could not sleep. She lay in her quarters aboard the Valiant, thinking about the battle. The way Blake had commanded, the way his crew obeyed without question, the way he had predicted exactly what they would do. She sat up and activated her data pad. If Blake had been in battles before, there would be records. All military service was documented. She accessed the human military database, which had been opened to allies after the peace treaty. She entered Blake's name and service number. The file appeared on her screen. Captain Blake, service record 15 years. Current assignment, Defense Station Commander, New Terra. Previous assignments, and there it stopped. Everything before his current post was classified, sealed, restricted. Frowned. Why would a defense station commander have classified records? She tried accessing the files using her diplomatic credentials. Access. She tried her ambassadorial codes. Access. Someone did not want people knowing about Blake's past. She put down the data pad and left her quarters. The ship was quieter at night, running on minimal crew. She walked through the corridors, not sure where she was going. Eventually, she found herself outside the ship's records room. A young human sat at the desk. He stood when he saw her. Ambassador, can I help you? I want to access service records, said, for Captain. The clerk looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, the captain's early service records are classified. I do not have clearance to release them. But you have access to them. Technically, yes, they are in the system, but opening them without proper authorization would be a violation. Considered this, then she had an idea. What if I do not ask for the classified files? What if I simply want to know where Captain served? Ship names, locations, dates. That information cannot be too sensitive. The clerk thought about it. I suppose basic assignment information would be acceptable, just ship names and dates. Yes, that would be sufficient. The clerk worked at his terminal for a moment. Okay, Captain's first assignment was on the destroyer Horizon. He served there for 2 years, then he transferred to... Wait, this cannot be right. What? The clerk checked again. It says he served on the battlecruiser Nightfall. That ship was famous during the Human War. It was destroyed in the battle with all hands lost. Perhaps he transferred before the battle, suggested. No, ma'am, according to this, he was aboard when the ship was destroyed. The clerk looked confused, but obviously he survived somehow. Then he served on the carrier Resolute, the cruiser Steadfast, and the dreadnought Vanguard, all famous ships from the war, all involved in major battles. Felt her pulse quicken. What rank was he during these assignments? Started as a lieutenant, promoted to lieutenant commander, then captain. He made captain at age 32. That is very young for such a rank. What happened after his service on the Vanguard? The clerk scrolled through the records. He took command of Task Force 7. That is a classified operation, no details available. Then, nothing. His records go blank for 3 years. Then he reappears as commander of the defense station on New Terra. 3 years missing, a task force command with no details, service on ships that fought in the worst battles of the human war. Thank you, said quietly, that is all I needed. She returned to her quarters and began researching the ships Blake had served on. Each one had a history of desperate battles and unlikely victories. The destroyer Horizon had held off 3 enemy cruisers long enough for civilian transports to escape. The battlecruiser Nightfall had been part of the defense of Station, the bloodiest battle of the war. Then she found something else, a legend, a story told among both human and alien militaries, a ghost who appeared in impossible battles and turned the tide. During the war there had been a human commander nicknamed the Ghost of. He had commanded outnumbered forces in 12 major engagements. He never lost. His tactics were studied in military academies. His strategies seemed to anticipate enemy movements before they happened. Then during the final battle of the war, the Ghost disappeared. His ship was destroyed. No survivors were found. The legend died with him. But what if he had not died? What if he had survived and simply vanished, taken a quiet post where no one would find him? Looked at Blake's service dates. They matched, the ships matched, the battles matched. Her husband was the Ghost of. The next morning, she found Blake on the bridge, studying tactical displays of the region. She waited until they were alone before speaking. I researched your service record last night, she said. Blake did not look up from the display. Did you find what you were looking for? I found more questions than answers. 3 years of your life are missing from the records. Those years are classified for good reason. The ships you served on fought in the worst battles of the human war. The Horizon, the Nightfall, the Vanguard. Watched his face carefully. The Nightfall was destroyed at station. All hands were reported lost. Blake's jaw tightened slightly. Not all, some of us survived. Were you the Ghost of? The question hung in the air between them. Blake finally looked at her. His eyes were tired, old beyond his years. That person does not exist anymore, he said quietly. He died in the war even if his body survived. I am just a defense station commander now, a husband in a political marriage, that is all. But you commanded Task Force 7, what was that? Blake was silent for a long moment, then he spoke, his voice careful. After the war ended there were complications, remnant forces, pirates who thought the galaxy was weak. The human government created special task forces to handle situations that regular fleets could not, dark operations, no public record, no glory, just necessity. And you commanded one of these task forces. For 3 years, until I could not do it anymore. Blake turned back to the tactical display. War takes pieces of your soul, ambassador. Eventually, you run out of pieces to give, so I asked to retire, faked my death again, took the quietest post I could find. I wanted to be left alone. But they sent you here, they made you marry me. They asked, Blake corrected. I could have refused, but I thought perhaps this could be something good, a real peace, a chance to build instead of destroy. He looked at her again. I did not expect to like you, but I do. You are sharp and brave. You deserve better than a broken soldier. Before could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Officers rushed to their stations. Commander Phillips appeared at a run. Captain, we have a situation. A combined science vessel, human and crew, was conducting research in the asteroid belt. They sent a distress signal. Ships captured them. Blake moved to the command chair instantly. Location. Section 14 of the belt. They are holding position around the science vessel. How many enemy ships? Sensors detect 60 vessels in 6 battle groups. They have the science vessel in the center of their formation. Blake studied the tactical display, watched him work, seeing his mind process the information at incredible speed. It is a trap, Blake said. They want us to try a rescue. They will surround and destroy any force we send. We cannot abandon our people, Admiral said over the communication channel. His face appeared on screen. Captain, I am ordering an immediate rescue operation. My fleet will attack from the primary vector. Admiral, with respect, that is exactly what they expect. We need time to plan. There is no time. Our people are prisoners. We attack now. His expression was firm. The question is whether your fleet will join us or stay behind. Blake closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, saw something she had not seen before. Pain, the burden of command weighing on him. "We will join you, Admiral," Blake said, "but I request permission to approach from a secondary vector. If they have prepared for a direct assault, perhaps we can create a distraction." "Agreed, you have 1 hour to coordinate your approach, then we attack." The channel closed. Blake stood and began giving orders. "Phillips, pull up everything we have on battle formations. Tactical, I need a full scan of that asteroid belt. Helm, plot 3 different approach vectors. Communications, get me every captain in the fleet on a secure channel." The bridge became a storm of activity. Watched Blake move through it like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every gesture had purpose. Every word carried weight. "Ambassador," Blake said, turning to her, "you should go to your quarters. This will be dangerous." "No," said firmly, "I will stay. I want to see how a legend fights." Blake smiled sadly. "Legends are just people who survived longer than they should have. But if you stay, I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Contact Admiral, convince him to trust me completely for this operation. If he makes his own decisions, people will die. I need him to follow my plan exactly." "He is a proud admiral. He will not take orders from a human captain." "Then make him believe it was his idea," Blake said. "You are a diplomat, use your skills. This is the most important negotiation of your life." Looked at the tactical display showing 60 enemy ships surrounding their people. She thought about the crew on that science vessel, human and together, waiting for rescue. She thought about Blake's tired eyes and the weight he carried. "I will convince him," she said. "You create the plan, I will make sure he follows it." Blake nodded once, then let us bring our people home. Blake stood before the holographic display in the war room, watched as he manipulated the images, moving ship markers through simulated space. He had been working for 30 minutes without stopping, testing different approaches, calculating possibilities. The other human captains appeared on communication screens around the room. They watched Blake work in silence, waiting for his orders. Finally, Blake spoke. "They expect a direct assault. They have positioned their battle groups to surround and eliminate any rescue force. Standard tactics would fail. We need something they will not anticipate." Captain Hayes of the destroyer Ranger spoke up. "What do you have in mind, sir?" Blake highlighted sections of the asteroid belt on the display. The science vessel is held in a relatively clear area, the maintained formation around it, but look at the asteroids nearby. Large rocks, metallic composition, high mineral content, they interfere with sensors. "You want to hide in the asteroids?" another captain asked. "More than hide, I want to move through them. They will be watching for ships approaching from open space. They will not expect us to navigate through a dense asteroid field at high speed." Commander Phillips, standing beside, looked worried. "Sir, navigating dense asteroids at combat speed is extremely dangerous. One wrong move and a ship could be destroyed." "I know," Blake said quietly, "but it is less dangerous than the trap they have set. This is the only approach they will not defend properly." He pulled up more tactical data. "The fleet will attack from the primary vector as Admiral planned. This will draw the attention. While they are focused on defending against our ships will emerge from the asteroid field behind them. We strike the rear battle groups, create chaos, and extract the science vessel during the confusion." "What about the Admiral?" Captain Hayes asked. "His fleet will take heavy fire while we maneuver into position." "The ships are built to withstand punishment. They can hold longer than we could, but we need to move fast. Every minute they fight alone, they lose more ships." Blake looked at each captain on the screens. "This plan requires perfect timing and absolute precision. Each ship must follow the exact course I transmit. No deviations, no improvisation. The margin for error is 0. If anyone is not comfortable with this, speak now. I will understand." No one spoke. The captains simply nodded. "Good," Blake said, "transmitting flight paths now. Study them carefully. We execute in 40 minutes. The captains signed off. Blake turned to, "Can you convince Admiral?" "I will try," said. She had already composed her arguments. She activated the communication channel to flagship. The Admiral appeared, his expression stern. "Ambassador, have you reconsidered? Will you tell Captain to join our direct assault?" "Admiral, I have considered carefully," said, choosing her words precisely. "I believe the Captain's plan has merit, but more than that, I believe this operation could demonstrate something important to the entire galaxy." "What could it demonstrate?" "Unity. If we execute this rescue with perfect coordination between our forces, we show that and humans can fight as one. We prove our alliance is real, not just words on paper. Frowned, pretty words, Ambassador, but our people are prisoners now. And they will see inhuman ships working together to save them. Think about the message that sends. Both governments are watching this operation. Success here could strengthen the peace for decades. Was silent for a moment. What exactly does Captain require from my fleet? Attack from your planned vector as you intended. Draw their fire. Hold position for exactly 20 minutes. Then, when the human ships emerge from the asteroids, shift your formation to create an exit corridor. The captain will signal when to move. So we are bait. No, Admiral, you are the hammer. The human ships are the blade. Together you break the trap. Saw considering this, his pride wanted to refuse, but his duty demanded success. 20 minutes, said finally. My ships will hold for 20 minutes. If the humans are late, I will withdraw my forces. I will not sacrifice my fleet for a human plan. Understood, Admiral, thank you. The channel closed, let out a breath she had been holding. Blake had watched the entire conversation. Well done, he said simply. I hope I did not promise something you cannot deliver. 20 minutes, that is tight, but we can do it. Blake returned to the display, studying the courses one more time. We have to. The next 30 minutes passed intense preparation. Ships moved into position. Crews ran final checks on systems. Pilots studied the paths through the asteroid field, memorizing every turn. Stood on the Valiant's bridge as the fleet prepared to move. She saw the human crew working with absolute focus. There was no panic, no fear, just professionals doing their jobs. All ships report ready, Phillips announced. Begin the operation, Blake ordered. On the main display, the fleet accelerated toward the formation. The enemy responded immediately, turning to face the threat. Weapons fire lit up space as the two forces engaged. The ships pushed forward aggressively, was keeping his promise, drawing all the attention. Helm, take us into the asteroid field, Blake commanded. All ships follow designated paths, maintain formation separation, stay alert. The Valiant entered the asteroid belt. Immediately, the ride became rough. The ship shook as it maneuvered around massive rocks spinning through space. Proximity alarms chimed constantly as asteroids passed within meters of the hull. Gripped the railing as the ship banked hard to avoid a collision. She watched the main display showing all 15 human ships navigating through the deadly obstacle course. This is insane, she whispered. This is necessary, Blake replied calmly. Helm, adjust course 2 degrees port. Asteroid cluster coming up on our starboard side. The pilot made the correction smoothly. The ship threaded between two massive rocks with only a few meters clearance on each side. All ships maintaining formation, Phillips reported. No collisions, no damage reports. Time elapsed, Blake asked. 15 minutes since Admiral engaged. We are on schedule, increase speed by 10%. Sir, at this speed in this density. I know the risks, Commander, increase speed. We need to reach our position before the fleet is overwhelmed. The Valiant accelerated. The asteroid dodging became even more intense. Saw sweat on the pilot's face as he concentrated on the navigation. 18 minutes, Phillips called out. Almost there, all ships prepare to exit the field on my mark. Weapons hot, shields maximum, target the rear battle groups. 19 minutes. The Valiant burst out of the asteroid field into open space. The other 14 human ships emerged in perfect formation, like a blade unsheathed from a scabbard. The rear guard never saw them coming. All ships fire, Blake commanded. The human fleet opened up at point-blank range. The unprepared vessels took massive damage. 3 ships exploded immediately. Others scrambled to turn and face this new threat. Signal, Admiral, Blake said. Execute formation shift. We are in position. On the display, the fleet suddenly changed its attack pattern. Instead of pressing forward, they created a corridor, just as planned. Valiant moved toward the science vessel. All escorts screen our approach. Blake watched the tactical display with intense focus. Phillips, prepare boarding parties. We need to evacuate those prisoners fast. The Valiant pushed through the confused formation. Enemy ships tried to respond, but they were caught between the human ships behind them and the fleet in front. Their formation collapsed into chaos. The science vessel came into view, a small research ship surrounded by cruisers. The Valiant positioned alongside it. Enemy ships closing on our position, an officer warned. All escorts defensive pattern. Keep them off us until the evacuation is complete. The human destroyers and frigates formed a protective wall around the Valiant and the science vessel. They absorbed enemy fire while boarding tubes connected the ships. Boarding parties away, Phillips announced. Minutes crawled by. On the display, watched the battle intensify. They were recovering from their surprise, reforming their lines. The window for escape was closing. First group of prisoners evacuating now, Phillips reported. Count is 37 personnel, mixed human and... How many remain? Blake asked. Another 43. Second boarding party is collecting them now. A battle cruiser broke through the defensive screen, bearing down on the Valiant. Blake saw it immediately. Hard to port, get us between that cruiser and the science vessel. The Valiant turned, interposing itself as a shield. The ship opened fire. Energy blasts hammered into the Valiant's shields. Shields at 40%, an officer called out. Damage to forward sections, hull breaches on decks 6 and 7. Return fire, all available weapons. The Valiant's guns spoke back. The exchange was brutal. Both ships poured fire into each other at close range. Shields failing, the officer shouted. 20%, 15%. All remaining prisoners are aboard, Phillips reported. Boarding tubes detaching. Signal the science vessel to jump to hyperspace immediately, Blake ordered. All ships begin withdrawal. The small research ship's engines flared and it vanished into hyperspace, carrying its rescued crew to safety. We did it, said, feeling relief wash over her. Then another alarm blared. Multiple hyperspace signatures, the sensor officer announced. New contacts emerging. I count 70, 100, 150 warships. They are surrounding our position. The relief evaporated. On the display, watched the massive fleet materialize around them. They had rescued the prisoners, but now they were trapped. Blake stared at the tactical display. For the first time since had met him, she saw something close to despair cross his face. This was always their real plan, he said quietly. The science vessel was not just bait for a rescue, it was bait to draw in our entire fleet. They want to destroy the Alliance before it truly begins. Captain Admiral is requesting orders, Phillips said. Blake straightened, the moment of doubt passing. Tell him to form up with our fleet. If we are going to face this, we face it together. Looked at the display showing over 200 enemy warships against their combined 35 ships. The odds were impossible. But Blake was already working, his mind racing through possibilities, searching for a way to survive what seemed like certain death. Blake stood motionless before the tactical display. 200 warships formed a sphere around the combined human and fleet. The enemy had committed everything. This was not a raid, this was an execution. Captain Admiral is requesting a conference, Phillips said. All fleet commanders. Put them through, all channels, all ships. The bridge screens filled with faces. Human captains, officers, all looking to Blake for orders. Admiral's expression was grim. Captain said standard doctrine requires retreat. We are outnumbered 6-1. Honorable withdrawal is the only logical choice. Retreat to where? Blake asked quietly. They have us surrounded. Any ship that breaks formation and runs will be picked off individually. We are weaker divided than together. So we die together, his voice was bitter. Is that your strategy? Blake looked at each face on the screens. I have a different strategy, one that requires something that has never been done before, perfect trust between our species, complete coordination between every ship in this fleet. Explain, demanded. Blake manipulated the tactical display. They assume we will either run or fight defensively. Both options lead to our destruction, so we do neither, we attack. Silence filled the communication channels. Attack, Captain Hayes said, against 200 ships. We use the asteroid field, Blake continued. The same one we just navigated. They have surrounded us, but they have not entered the field. Their ships are too large, their crews too undisciplined to navigate it safely. That is our advantage. You want us to retreat into the asteroids? Asked. Not retreat, advance differently. We draw them in, make them chase us. The asteroids will limit how many ships can engage us at once. Their numbers become less effective in confined space. Blake highlighted specific points in the asteroid field. There are stable zones here, here, and here. Clear pockets where we can regroup and strike back. We turn the battlefield into a maze where size and numbers matter less than skill and coordination. "This is madness," said, but heard something in his voice, not conviction, doubt. Admiral spoke up. "In our culture we have a saying, the cornered vex becomes most dangerous. We are cornered, let us be dangerous." Blake looked at, "I cannot order you, Admiral. You are equal in rank, but I am asking you to trust me. Trust my experience. Trust that I want to save every life in this fleet, human and alike." Stared at Blake for a long moment, then he made a decision. "What do you need from my ships?" Relief washed through Blake's expression. "Shields are stronger than ours. Your ships take the forward positions. Human vessels will provide firepower from protected positions. We move as one unit. No ship acts alone." "What formation?" asked. "No standard formation, something new, something built for this moment. I will call it the Unity Formation." Blake began transmitting data to all ships. Every vessel has a specific position, human and ships intermixed, each protecting the other's weaknesses. The captains studied the data Blake sent. It was complex, requiring constant communication and adjustment, but it was also brilliant. Human weapons covering ships, shields protecting human vessels, a true fusion of both fleets' strengths. "This could work," Captain Hayes said slowly, "if we can maintain coordination." "That is why I need a promise from every commander," Blake said. "Trust the ship next to you. Human or it does not matter, they are your shield, you are their sword, we succeed together or fail together." One by one the captains agreed, humans and alike committed to the plan. "All ships begin formation shift," Blake ordered. "Move slowly and deliberately. Show that we are organizing for defense. Let them think they have time." The fleet began to move, human and vessels interlocked into Blake's Unity Formation. To an outside observer it looked like a defensive cluster, but saw the truth. It was a weapon waiting to be unleashed. "Our holding position," the sensor officer reported. "They are content to wait, they think we are trapped." "Good, let them think that." Blake studied the display. "Helm, when I give the word, full speed into the asteroid field. Exact heading will be transmitted. All ships will follow simultaneously." "Sir, the Valiant took damage earlier. Our shield generators are operating at reduced capacity." "I know, that is why we are not taking point. Admiral's flagship will lead. We will be in the protected center of the formation." Looked at him in surprise, Blake saw her expression. "I am not hiding," he said quietly. "I am commanding. The Admiral has the strongest ship. Logic dictates he leads. My ego does not matter." "That is not how most commanders think. Most commanders have not seen as many of their people die as I have. Pride is expensive. I will not pay for it with lives." Blake waited until every ship reported ready. Then he spoke clearly into the communication channel. "All vessels execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1 mark." The entire fleet surged forward as one, 35 ships moving in perfect coordination, diving into the asteroid field at combat speed. They hesitated for just a moment, surprised by the sudden movement. Then they pursued. The chase began. Blake's voice remained calm as he directed the fleet through the obstacles. "Port group, adjust heading 5 degrees. Starboard group, prepare for sharp turn in 20 seconds. Admiral, reduce speed slightly. Let the middle formation catch up." The orders flowed continuously. Every captain followed without question. Human and ships moved like parts of a single organism. They entered the asteroid field in pursuit, but their formation immediately fell apart. Their large battleships collided with asteroids. Their commanders gave conflicting orders. Chaos spread through their ranks. "First pocket approaching," Blake announced. "All ships prepare to turn and engage. Target selection is free. Fire at will." The fleet emerged into a clear zone among the asteroids. The pursuing ships found themselves in a kill zone. Coordinated fire from 35 warships shredded the leading enemy vessels. Continuing into the field, Blake ordered, "Do not stop, keep moving." They plunged back into the asteroids. More ships followed, but fewer now. The enemy was learning caution. For hours, the battle continued. The fleet moved through the asteroid field, striking and retreating, using the terrain against the enemy. Ships were destroyed or damaged. Their numbers slowly decreased. But the Allied fleet took losses too. A human frigate struck an asteroid and broke apart. A destroyer was overwhelmed by 3 cruisers. Each loss hit Blake hard, saw him flinch every time a ship vanished from the display. Emerging from the field, Phillips announced, "Clear space ahead. All ships full speed, break out into open space, reform Unity Formation." The fleet burst from the asteroid field. Behind them, the force had been decimated. Over 80 enemy ships destroyed or disabled. The survivors were scattered, disorganized. "They are retreating," said, his voice filled with disbelief. "They are actually retreating." On the display, the remaining vessels turned and fled. The impossible had happened. A combined fleet of 35 ships had defeated a force 6 times larger. Blake slumped in his command chair, the weight of command finally showing. "All ships, do not pursue, let them go, we have won enough." Cheers erupted across the human ships. The crews celebrated in their own way, but Blake was silent. Approached him. "You saved everyone. You achieved the impossible." "I lost 7 ships," Blake said quietly. 7 crews, that is not victory, that is survival at terrible cost. 7 instead of 35, you saved lives, Blake, that matters." Blake looked at her. "Does it? Will it matter to the families of those who died?" "Yes," said firmly, "because you fought to bring everyone home. You valued every life equally, human, and that is what makes you different from other commanders. That is what makes you a legend." Communication channels lit up with incoming messages. Admiral appeared on screen first. "Captain, the Empire owes you a debt that cannot be repaid. You commanded with wisdom and courage. I am honored to have fought beside you." Other messages followed, the human government, the council, other allied species who had been watching, all praising the victory, all requesting Blake's service as joint military advisor. Blake listened to them all politely, but gave no immediate answers. Later, when they were alone in their quarters, sat beside her husband. "You will accept, will you not, the position they are offering?" "I do not know," Blake said. "I retired because I was tired of war, tired of losing people. This battle brought all that back." "But you also showed that unity works, that humans and can trust each other, that we are stronger together." Took his hand. "You wanted peace. This is how you build it, not by hiding but by teaching others what you know." Blake was quiet for a long time, then he smiled slightly. "You are a skilled diplomat, you know exactly what to say." "I am your wife, I know what you need to hear." She squeezed his hand. "The war is over, Blake. This is not more war. This is preventing future wars. There is a difference." Blake nodded slowly. "When you married me, you thought I was a simple defense station commander." "I did, I was wrong, but I am glad I was wrong," smiled. "You are a legend, Blake, the ghost of, but you are also a good man who cares deeply about protecting others. That combination is rare. The galaxy needs it." "And what do you need?" Thought about the question. "I need a husband who will work beside me to build something better, a real alliance between our peoples, not just politics but partnership. Can you be that?" Blake looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not a political arrangement, but a person he had come to respect and care for. "I can try," he said. Outside the window, human and ships flew in formation, returning home together, the beginning of something new, an alliance forged not in politics but in battle, proven through trust, strengthened through sacrifice. The ghost of had returned, but this time he would fight for peace instead of victory, and he would not fight alone.